Hi there, it's Sandra from the Schwowin's Nest. Thanks for joining me today. Project number one is using this thrifted frame. It's got a ton of hardware on the back, so I'm going to take everything off except for one sawtooth hanger. I'm going to pop all of the support pieces out that are holding the glass in, along with some of those little nails. I'm going to need needle nose pliers for those, so I'll just pop that all out and then I'll be able to take the glass out. Then I'm going to take the frame outside and give it 2 coats of this Premier paint and primer in one in flat white. I am so excited to share with you that this video is sponsored by Hiipoo. They have some Waterslide Decal paper that is so easy to use. You can transfer just about any image just using their paper and your inkjet printer. This paper is quick and easy to use. You can use it for your own home decor or even make some personalized gifts for friends and family. Let me show you how it works. First, when you get your pack, you'll get 20 sheets of letter size paper, which means it's going to fit in any size printer. You get 20 sheets per pack, which is perfect. They also give you some really good instructions on the back. When you take your paper out, you'll notice that one side is glossy, very similar to printer paper, and the other side is matte. It's the glossy side that you want to make sure gets the print on it. Once you figured out what you'd like to print, take it to your printer, make sure you print with the glossy side up, and this is what you will get. I've got some vintage fruits here that I found on Pixabay.com. I'll definitely have those linked down in my description box. Inkjet printers are not waterproof. So what you have to do is take some clear matte spray and you're going to give it 3 good coats. What they recommend is that you wait about 10 minutes in between each coat, and that's going to ensure that your ink isn't going to run. Once it's dry, you're going to hit it again with another coat of your clear matte spray finish. You can also use the cool setting on a blow dryer to speed up the drying process. While I wait for my print to dry, I'm going to prep the glass because that's what I'm going to use to put my prints on. I'm using this contact paper that I picked up from Dollarama, and it's a beautiful light wood grain finish. So I thought this would be the perfect backdrop for my fruits. I'm going to go ahead and put it on front and back because I want the back of this to also look nice and neat. I'm just going to use my craft knife to clean up the edges and get rid of any of the excess contact paper. I'm also then just going to cover the rest of that glass with another piece. Now it's time to cut out my images. I'm going to be leaving about 1/8 of an inch all the way around each of the images, and I'm going to just set them up the way I want them to look. I did some practicing beforehand and then I put on this first piece of fruit, which is the apricots. I think it looks absolutely gorgeous. What you do is you lay your image with the paper and everything into some room temperature tap water. Just kind of spread it out so it has the opportunity to get nice and wet. You're going to leave that in there for about 30 to 60 seconds. I found that the longer I left it in, the easier it was to work with. Then I just put a little bit of moisture down on my vinyl. Now, this part can get a little bit tricky. What you need to do is leave a little bit more of the paper around the edges because it just helps you to grab it and pull it out. I position my fruit right on top of my vinyl, kind of tap it down, and then you got to grab that white paper from underneath and slowly slide it out. Now what I'm doing is just moving it around ever so slightly with my finger being wet. I don't want it to be dry because then that's going to pull up the decal and I want it to stay nice and firm. So what I'm going to be doing next is just taking a little bit of a paper towel and wiping off the excess, pushing out any of the water that's on underneath it and making sure that it's nice and dry. For this next one, I thought I would zoom it up a little bit closer so you could see it a little bit better. So putting a little bit of water down and then grabbing the decal out of the water and taking it over to where I want it positioned. Again, you're just going to kind of squeeze that paper up a little bit and you're going to get a little edge of the decal on top. Then you're going to take the paper and slide it out from underneath. Now, this one proved to be a little tricky because I didn't leave enough of the white space underneath. So some of the image kind of stretched and it pulled down a little bit. But that's okay. This is a vintage piece and it's not supposed to be perfect. I love trying new techniques, and this one is turning out to be one of my favorites. If you'd like to try out the Hiipoo Waterslide Decal paper, there will be a link down in my description box for 50% off. That will be valid until July 27th. But if you don't get around to purchasing it within the next week, it isn't really that expensive. It is something that I would definitely pay full price for because you get a lot of bang for your buck. So here's my frame all painted up and I've got the glass already inserted with my fruit on it. What I'm going to do is add some of the tumbling tower blocks to the back so I can keep it propped up a little bit. This was a shadow box and it had the glass way up at the front and then a backing on the back of it. So there was about a good inch and a half of space in between. I wanted it to be more of a normal looking frame. So I'm going to be placing it about a half an inch in towards the frame. And then I'll use those tumbling tower blocks to just make sure it's secure on the back. Project number 2 is using this vase that has a whole bunch of printing on the front of it. I'm going to spray paint it a couple of times with my flat white. Now I'm using a chicken. I love this chicken. It is absolutely beautiful. It's so vintage looking. And again, it's from Pixabay. I'll have that link in my description box. I'm using the Waterslide Decal paper again, and this time I'm going to show you how you can put it on something that has been spray painted. And this turned out really good. The only problem I had with it, and it had nothing to do with the paper, was that I used the color setting on the inkjet printer. So as soon as I transferred the chicken, some of the pink from the colored ink started to come through and it didn't look 100% black and white. I did have to do a little bit of touch-ups with it, but that is a lesson that I have learned, so I'm going to pass it along to you. If you want something to be black and white, make sure you change your printer settings to just print in black. So here I got a little bit smarter. I grabbed a little pair of tweezers and I used them to pull the paper out from underneath. Now again, I'm just going to be smoothing it out with my fingers and then I'll dry it with the paper towel. And that's all I'm doing to this because I love that chicken. I think he's absolutely adorable. Oh, no, I did do something else. I added some of this black and white baker's twine. I wrapped it around about 6 times just around the neck and tied a simple shoestring bow. I added a little bit of lavender and I think it turned out absolutely pretty. My last project for you today is using this Dollar Tree sign that I already made a sign out of. And now I'm going to take cocoa bean chalk paint from Rust-Oleum and give it one good coat. I love these boards because they have the grooves in them and it really makes it look like wood. The brown paint is dry, so I'm just taking a candle. It's just an old IKEA candle that I popped out of its tin shell, and I'm running it over the board. Now it looks like I'm getting it everywhere, and I kind of am, but in some areas the wax just doesn't stick, which is fine. I'm going to give it one good coat of chalk paint. Now, this is just my DIY chalk paint that I use. So it's just a white latex paint with some talc in it. If you're interested in that recipe, it's down in my description box. And yes, everything that I do and say is down in my description box. So please go check that out if you're looking for anything. If something's missing, let me know in the comments and I'll try to fix it up as soon as I can. With this wax distressing technique, you don't get all of the dust from sanding, but you do have to wait till your paint is completely dry. And what you do is just take a scraper. Now, this is one of the Pampered Chef scrapers that I use for my stones. I've got a gazillion of them because I used to sell Pampered Chef in a former life. So you can use this. You can probably use an old credit card or a gift card. It has to be fairly stiff, and what I'm doing is just peeling off the paint wherever the wax was. It's going to show the brown paint underneath, and there's no way I would have been able to get this effect with sanding. I love this. It looks so authentic, like this piece of wood has been outside, it was painted white, and the weather has just taken its toll. It looks absolutely gorgeous. So thank you so much to Teresa for hooking me on to this wax technique. I want this board to look similar to an old-fashioned shutter, so I'm going to measure 3 inches from each end, just make a little mark, and then I'm going to cut a painter stick the width of my sign and then hot glue it into place. Since these sticks are a little bit thicker, I did have to squeeze a few times to get a nice cut, but it does work eventually. Now I'm going to then glue these on and put a coat of brown paint on and white paint and do the exact same technique that I used on the board itself. I am totally in love with the combination of lamb's ear and Sola wood flowers. These flowers are absolutely gorgeous, and I love how they give my projects a vintage look. What I needed to do for some of these is cut the stems down just a wee bit so they would lay nice and flat with the hot glue. I'm putting just a stem with a bunch of lamb's ear sort of curved into the center. What I'm going to do at the bottom is add another Waterslide decal. This time I printed it off just in solid black, and the result was much better than my chicken, although I'm still in love with my chicken too. So here's a little Christmas in July bonus project for you. This was my practice piece, and I wanted to show you how wonderfully this little pine tree came off. I was able to pull that paper out super easy on this. So I am thinking that smaller pieces to start out with will be better than larger pieces. I'm also going to try minimizing how much water I'm using. You can see that they're sliding off really nicely, but I don't think I'm going to need as much water on the project itself. I think there will be enough water on the decal itself and on the paper. So I'm going to give that a try, and probably in my next video, you'll see me do some more of these water slide decals because I am in love. I think they are absolutely fabulous, and I want to try them on a few other types of materials. I hope you enjoyed my projects today and you got a little excited about the water slide decals. Don't forget to go down to my description box and click on that link, get yourself some, and give it a try. If you like what you saw, I'd love for you to stick around. Hit that subscribe button. The black arrow will tell you exactly where to click. Thank you so much for watching and joining me today. Have a great day.